The patrol ended without an incident report, but the file did not close. A logbook was submitted, ink steady, dates intact. It lists a campsite that cannot be located. The location is the Salmon River Breaks, Idaho. Coordinates repeat across 3 entries. Photographs are logged as evidence. The negatives show an empty clearing. The log describes a standing tent, fully staked. No tracks in wet ground, no removal marks, no record of recovery. The object remains only in writing. The site verifies nothing. The record stops. Archive entry, Salmon River. The Salmon River Breaks stretch across central Idaho, in a region known to locals as the River of No Return Wilderness. It is one of the most isolated areas in the continental United States. The terrain is steep, unforgiving, and cut through by deep river gorges that drop more than 1,000 feet in elevation. Access is limited to a handful of unmarked trails and fire roads that wash out every spring. There are no towns within 30 miles, no cell service, no roads wide enough for emergency vehicles. The nearest ranger station is a 2-hour drive on gravel, and that's only when the weather holds. In winter, the area becomes effectively unreachable. Snowpack can exceed 6 feet by February, and temperatures drop well below zero at night. Wind comes down through the canyons without warning, fast enough to knock a person off balance. Storms move in quickly here, sometimes in less than an hour. The Forest Service maintains a small rotation of backcountry rangers who patrol the area during the warmer months. They work alone, usually for weeks at a time. Their job is to monitor trail conditions, check campsites, and document wildlife activity. They carry radios, but the signal rarely reaches beyond the ridgeline. Most communication happens through written logs submitted at the end of each rotation. In August of 1998, a ranger named Michael Terrell was assigned to a 2-week patrol in the northern section of the Breaks. He was experienced, 34 years old. He had been with the Forest Service for 9 years and had completed more than a dozen solo rotations in remote wilderness areas. His supervisor described him as reliable, methodical, and comfortable with isolation. Terrell's assignment was routine. He was tasked with inspecting several unmanned campsites along the upper ridge, documenting any erosion or trail damage, and checking a few remote weather stations. He carried standard gear, a 2-person tent, a week's worth of food, water filtration equipment, a first aid kit, and a handheld radio. He also carried a logbook. All backcountry rangers were required to maintain daily entries during their patrols. The logs were meant to track their location, weather conditions, and any notable observations. They were submitted to the district office at the end of each rotation and filed as part of the Forest Service's operational record. Terrell's logbook was later recovered. It contains entries spanning 6 days. The first few entries are unremarkable. They follow the standard format used by most rangers in the field, but the tone begins to shift after the 3rd day. The later entries are shorter, less structured. They describe something Terrell could not explain. What follows is the content of those entries, read exactly as they were written. August 14th, 1998, 6:45 a.m., clear skies, temperature approximately 52 degrees at camp. Departed Station Point trailhead at 7:10 a.m. Followed trail 204 northeast toward the upper ridge. Trail conditions fair. Minor washout near mile marker 3, flagged for repair. Reached first checkpoint at 11:30 a.m. Weather station functional. Recorded data per protocol. Continued east along ridgeline. Set up camp at coordinates previously marked as Site 7. Visibility excellent. No wildlife activity observed. Standard perimeter check completed. All gear secured. No issues to report. August 16th, 1998. 7:20 a.m. Overcast. Light wind from the northwest. Broke camp at 8:00 a.m. Continued east toward the secondary patrol zone. Trail 204 ends approximately 2 miles past Site 7. Terrain becomes unstable beyond that point. Proceeded on foot using compass bearing. Reached the old access road by early afternoon. Road is overgrown but still identifiable. Followed it north for approximately 1 mile. Found something unusual. There is a tent here. It is standing upright, fully staked, located roughly 40 feet off the road in a small clearing. The tent is dark green. Older model, appears to be in good condition. No visible damage. Rainfly is intact and properly secured. There is no one inside. I called out several times, no response. The surrounding area is quiet. I approached the tent and looked inside through the mesh door. There is gear inside, a sleeping bag, a backpack, a pair of boots near the entrance, a flashlight sitting on top of the pack. The interior is dry. There is no sign of water damage or disturbance. The sleeping bag is laid out flat, as if someone had been using it. I did not enter the tent. I circled the perimeter and checked for footprints or other signs of activity. The ground is soft from recent rain, but I found no clear tracks leading away from the site. There is no fire ring, no food storage, no indication of how long the tent has been here. I checked my map. This location is not marked as an official campsite. It is far from any maintained trail. I do not know who this tent belongs to. I waited near the site for approximately 30 minutes in case the occupant returned. No one came. I marked the coordinates and took a photograph for the record. I will report this when I return to the station. I am continuing north as planned. Current location logged. Weather holding steady. August 17th, 1998, 6:10 a.m. Camped approximately 3 miles north of the tent site. Slept poorly. Woke several times during the night, but could not identify why. Weather remains overcast. Temperature has dropped noticeably since yesterday. I returned to the tent this morning. I do not know why I did this. It was not part of my planned route, but I felt it was necessary to check the site again before moving on. I approached from the same direction as yesterday. The tent is still standing. Nothing has changed. The gear is still inside. The sleeping bag is still laid out in the same position. I called out again. No response. I walked the perimeter a second time, wider this time, looking for any sign of the occupant. I found nothing. No tracks, no evidence of movement in or out of the clearing. The ground is still soft from rain 2 days ago. There should be prints. I checked the surrounding trees for markers or caches. Nothing. I opened the tent flap and looked more closely at the interior. The backpack is dark blue, standard issue hiking pack. It is partially open. I could see clothing inside, a water bottle in the side pocket. The boots near the entrance are men's size 10, leather, well worn but intact. There is no identification visible, no wallet or tags on the pack. I still did not enter the tent. I do not know how to explain this, but the site feels deliberately arranged, not staged, but orderly in a way that does not match an emergency or sudden departure. If someone had been forced to leave quickly, the tent would show signs of that. If they had planned to return, there would be food storage or a note. There is neither. I attempted to radio the station but could not establish contact from this location. I marked the site again and took additional photographs. I will continue my patrol and report this in full when I return. Current weather, overcast, wind increasing from the west. August 18th, 1998, 8:35 p.m. Heavy rain began this afternoon. Visibility poor. I set up camp early in a sheltered area near the base of the ridge. The rain has not stopped. I tried the radio again at 6 p.m. No signal. I have been thinking about the tent. I cannot stop thinking about it. There is something wrong with the way it was left. I have worked in backcountry for 9 years. I have seen abandoned campsites before. People leave gear behind when they panic or when weather turns, but they do not leave a tent standing, fully staked, with everything still inside. They do not leave boots at the entrance as if they had just stepped out for a moment. I keep returning to the question of tracks. The ground was soft. It had rained recently. There should have been prints leading away from the tent, even old prints, even faint ones. But there was nothing. It is as if the person simply stopped existing at the edge of the clearing. I know that is not possible, but I cannot explain what I saw. The rain is getting heavier. I will remain here tonight and reassess in the morning. August 19th, 1998, 11:20 a.m. The storm passed during the night. Skies are clear now, but the temperature has dropped significantly. I broke camp at first light and began moving south toward the return route. I passed near the tent site again. I told myself I would not stop, but I did. The tent is gone. The clearing is empty. I walked to the exact location where the tent had been standing. I am certain this is the correct spot. I marked it on my map. I took photographs from this position 2 days ago, but there is nothing here now. No tent, no gear, no stakes, no disturbance in the ground. The clearing looks as if it has been empty for weeks. I searched the area for more than an hour. I walked grids. I checked every direction within 200 feet. There is no evidence that a tent was ever here. The photographs are still in my camera, the coordinates are still in my log, but the site is gone. I do not know what to make of this. I am continuing south. I will submit a full report when I reach the station. Terrell returned to the district office on August 21, 1998. He submitted his logbook as required. He also submitted the photographs he had referenced in his entries. The photographs show a clearing. They show trees and undergrowth consistent with the northern section of the breaks, but they do not show a tent. In every image, the clearing is empty. Terrell insisted the tent had been there when he took the photographs. He described the images as accurate representations of what he had seen through the viewfinder, but the developed film showed something different. A search team was dispatched to the coordinates Terrell had provided. They found the clearing. They found no tent, no gear, and no evidence that anyone had camped there recently. The ground showed no signs of disturbance. Terrell was placed on administrative leave pending a psychological evaluation. The evaluation found no signs of impairment or mental instability. He was described as lucid, consistent, and reliable in his account. He returned to duty 6 weeks later. He requested a transfer to a different patrol zone. The request was granted. Terrell completed 2 more years with the Forest Service before leaving the agency in 2000. He declined to discuss the incident in any interviews conducted after his departure. There are explanations for what Terrell described. Isolation affects perception. Backcountry rangers spend weeks alone in remote areas with limited human contact. The mind compensates for that isolation in predictable ways. It creates patterns where none exist. It assigns meaning to ordinary details. Terrell had been alone for 6 days when he found the tent. He had been moving through difficult terrain with limited sleep and irregular meals. Fatigue and mild dehydration can produce visual distortions. They can also produce false memories, especially when combined with stress. It is possible Terrell saw something else in the clearing, a rock formation, a shadow cast by trees at a particular angle. His mind, primed by days of solitude, may have interpreted that shape as a tent. Once the initial interpretation was made, his subsequent visits reinforced it. This is a documented phenomenon in isolation psychology. The mind defends its first conclusion, even when presented with contradictory evidence. The photographs support this explanation. Cameras do not lie in the same way human perception does. They record light exactly as it enters the lens. If the photographs show an empty clearing, the clearing was likely empty. The alternative is equipment failure, but Terrell's camera functioned normally before and after the incident. The other photographs from his patrol are clear and properly exposed. There is also the question of the logbook entries. Terrell's writing remains consistent throughout the 6 days. His handwriting does not deteriorate. His syntax does not break down. If he had been experiencing a psychological episode, those signs would likely be present. But they are not. His entries are methodical, detailed, and grounded in observable fact. He does not speculate. He does not embellish. He describes what he believes he saw, and he acknowledges his own confusion. That level of self-awareness is not typical of hallucinatory experiences. There is one other possibility. The tent may have belonged to someone else in the area, someone who dismantled their campsite and left while Terrell was away. But this does not explain the lack of tracks. It does not explain why the tent would be set up so far from any marked trail. And it does not explain why Terrell, an experienced ranger trained in tracking and observation, would fail to notice any evidence of human activity. The photographs remain the most difficult detail to reconcile. Terrell took multiple images of the clearing. He took them from different angles over the course of 2 days. He referenced them specifically in his log entries, describing what he had captured. But when the film was developed, every frame showed the same thing: an empty clearing, trees, undergrowth, nothing else. If Terrell had imagined the tent, the photographs would still reflect what the camera recorded. That is consistent with psychological explanations. But Terrell did not simply imagine the tent and then forget about the photographs. He referenced them in writing while the event was still happening. He believed he was documenting physical evidence. He acted as though the camera would confirm what he had seen. That belief persisted even after he returned to the station. When the photographs were developed and showed nothing, Terrell did not recant his account. He did not claim the images had been altered or that the film had been mishandled. He simply stated that the tent had been there when he took the pictures. He maintained that position consistently. and he never offered an explanation for the discrepancy. The clearing is still there. It sits approximately 1 mile north of the old access road, 40 feet off the trail, in a small stand of ponderosa pine. It is unmarked. It is not listed on any Forest Service map. It is not designated as a campsite, but people have been there. Hikers and rangers occasionally pass through the area during patrol season. Some of them stop in the clearing, some of them take photographs. The photographs always show the same thing: an empty space in the trees, no tent, no gear, no evidence that anything unusual has ever occurred there. But the clearing is remembered. It appears in ranger logs from other years, referenced briefly and without explanation. It is marked in the margins of old topographic maps, noted by hand with coordinates and a single word. Verified. No one knows what that word is meant to confirm, but it appears more than once, in different handwriting, from different years. The tent was never found. The photographs show nothing, but Michael Terrell saw something. He wrote about it clearly. He marked it precisely. He returned to it 3 times. And then it was gone. Not abandoned, not moved. Gone in a way that left no trace. What remains is not the tent itself, but its absence, the space where it should have been, the clearing that holds nothing and yet is remembered. The Salmon River file is closed, but the archive remains open. Subscribe to access the next entry.